I'm a government person too, so you're a SME. You're the subject matter expert. I am the subject matter expert of overcoming trauma and abuse. I am the subject matter expert of resiliency. I am a master resiliency trainer. I actually got certified in it, and I do training on that. So use your book as your key. It's to open the doors. I speak on stages. I do trainings. I have a film. So I am a triple threat, and I know it. I'm more than just
you better
a
give
book.
us Beyonce.
Come
So I
on
need
now.
you to understand that your book is your gateway and your key. Don't just think you're just an author. You're more than an author. And it all starts with just taking that one step. Like my sis said, you do it scared. Do it scared and do it anyway. So that's the business part. Just know that it's more than just a book. And once again, if that's you, then that's fine, and there's more to it. If not, then just say, okay, I wrote the book, and there you go. You check that off your list, and no one can ever take that from you, and that's an accomplishment. And don't sit on it. Don't sit on what God has given you.
In terms of the business aspect of publishing, you kind of need this precise combination of both patience and seizing the moment, because this book took like 15 years to write. I started when I was like 15 years old, and then around that time, Hunger Games was really popular. Hunger Games and Twilight. And then I knew this was like more like a market-oriented book, so I knew that the publishers would all be looking for, the next Twilight, the next Hunger Games. And I was like, this isn't my book, so I didn't really push for publishing then. I continued to research, I continued to work on my drafting, I continued to work on my story. And then when I thought about publishing again, everyone was like, this needs to be the next Divergent, this needs to be the next, dystopia novel. They were just looking for dystopian genres. And I was like, this isn't that book. So I just kept writing and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then Game of Thrones, the TV show, comes out. And then I was like, ooh, this could be it. Because A Song of Ice and Fire, the novels, were popular in the 90s and early 2000s, but they weren't really popular with the general audience just yet. The TV series of Game of Thrones was perfect because it introduced a lot of people to the kind of genre that I want to write. So I was like, okay, let me just put my foot on the pedal on this novel a bit more. So I started writing a bit more, and the show kept coming out, and it kept getting more and more popular. I was like, okay, this might be it. But I was like, the story still isn't good. And then my wife kept telling me, just get past chapter 6, and then we'll see what happens. So I got past chapter 6, I got past chapter 10, and then I kept going and going and going. And then I was worried I was going to miss the train, because by the time I was almost done, the TV series Game of Thrones was almost finished. Luckily, the ending was terrible. So people were in the market for a better story, a better way to handle that genre. So that's when I realized, okay, this is it, because after Game of Thrones was over, all the publishers, everyone was looking for the next Game of Thrones. I was like, okay, this is this book. So that's when I really pushed publishing. And so now when I go out and tell people about my book, when I say it's Roots meets Game of Thrones, they know the context and know the genre, because I waited for Game of Thrones to finish its run, so everyone knows the exact context I'm talking about. So if I just rushed through it, like people wouldn't really know it as much. So like I said, it's this combination of seizing the moment and patience.
Wow, that's really good. Because what I heard from that is timing. People are trying to sell their programs, and they're trying to tell you can get a book done in 60 days or in 60 hours. I'm getting ready to tell you, my life took more than that. I am 57 years old. Okay, I look good. You're supposed to say, oh, you look good. It takes time. For me, it was time with God. Right? Because I know that I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ, and it's timing. He waited 15 years because what he needed was not yet available. So you have to be patient, because what you need might not yet be available. I had no idea that I would become a certified laughter coach. It's a real thing. God said, learn your craft. So I learned how to join an organization for humor professionals. I'm in a second year of a humor professional, humor academy. Learning how to use humor therapeutically. Come on now, using it therapeutically, okay? And my mentor, he's been doing it for years. He's a retired psychologist. I had no idea they was using laughter in their therapy sessions. Learn your craft, learn who you are and what you have to bring to the table. So I like the timing, because people tell you with AI, my book was not written by AI, y'all. I can tell y'all that right now. Not one thing of it was written by AI, okay? But I know that's what they telling you to do now. I like that his took 15 years and that he was waiting on the information that he needed to the point that now he's sold out at the Baltimore Book Fair. So I think it's timing, and I think being courageous or having grit means determination. At some point, you got to be determined that you want to do what you want to do and do it when you are called to do it. The business side, listening to the couple that owned the Mahogany Book, and they was
Derek
like, they
and
had
Belinda.
to
Go visit them in National Harbor, y'all.
Yes, ma'am. And they can ready to open up another location. They didn't reveal
are.
where. But what I like what they said is that they had to make decisions. Was it going to be that they were going to purchase books, or were they going to pay their water bill? Because I'm going to tell you, as a self-publisher, it costs. And the
to be the
truth be
boss.
told, do your research before you just up and publish with a publishing company. Because I did that looking at the publishing companies, and until I saw their contract, they was like, oh, once you make your money back, now you want 40%. I'm sorry, where was you at when I was going through? Where was you where you want 40% of my sales and my royalties after I paid you to publish? I'm sorry. And you wasn't going to help me with marketing? Do your research. Do your research. Ask for a contract. A sample contract. That's important. Ask for a sample contract. And it costs, because people want, I'm not going to lie, TBN wanted $5,500 off the back, and they wanted 40% after. They said, well, once you make your money back, you know, and then we want 40%. I said, well, what you gonna do for the 40%? Are you gonna put me on TV? Oh, that's another $5,000. So do your research, right? Don't be bamboozled by people who are saying, oh, $500. It's not. That's not $500. Probably is their contract fee.
Amen.
So no, it does cost.
It does cost. It does cost.
Yes.
We have time for maybe one more question. Is there any question out, or maybe two? We're running on time, but it has to be quick. Any questions before I turn it back to our panelists? Speak up too.
So, for all of you, when you decided that this is the time, did you already have your title? Did you have to work for your title? Or did your life give you the title?
I mean, her life gave her the time.
I'm about to say, yeah,
She
her
started
life.
laughing. So for me, I made the decision. So my book was made the decision after this current administration. And because of the amount of speaking engagements and press interviews I had, I just was like, we need to scale this. I'm only one person, and I'm not the only practitioner out there. I'm not the only expert, but I was like, somebody need to see this. So that was my timing. My title came from my Blurred, my son, my 20-year-old. He was like, Mommy, this sounds like an illusion. And I was like, oh, he said, you should name it Diversity Illusion. And so that's what I went with, and then expanded on the writing from that perspective. So he's the one, my Blurred. I like that. He came up with the title, and it's appropriate because at the beginning of the book, I talk about the illusion as in the public, the media, that diversity is, we've done so well. And I didn't get in my part 2, baby. Y'all think the part 1 is good. My next book, because I was real political. I was intentional, diplomatic, because I don't want to be argumentative. I want people to get information. But the truth of the matter is, it's deeper illusion than I even talk about, because again, the performative is not just in corporations, baby. It's like, I mean, they arrested us. They held our hands in the government. My dear sister back there, they told us to do it and then put us in a corner.
Yep.
So that's a whole, and I was working for the other administration, you know what I'm saying, Biden administration. So, it's an illusion. So that's where my book title came from.
Mine came from, It was supposed to have been called Laughter to the Nations because that's what God called me, Laughter to the Nations. But it came from knowing who I was. And one day God woke me up. He said, you know, I want to thank you for being courageous enough to laugh. And that's how I got the title of my book, because God called me courageous enough to laugh.
And for me, it was life. It was at the moment when I found out 30 plus something years later about what my father was still doing to another child that happened to be my little sister that I didn't know that existed. So life kind of made me do this. I was in a healing perspective, and it just, as I'm writing, as I was doing what I was doing, then God was planting seeds. It was like, okay, put it in a book. And then I started envisioning a book. Before the book even existed or really what it was going to be, I had the idea because I had to change my mindset. I had to shift the way I was thinking. Because prior to, I was in that victim mindset. If this happened to me and la 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 la. So I had to shift and, really have this transformational journey. And then I started thinking, and that's why I was like, ooh, what if I have a picture of me thinking? What if I have, my thoughts got to be enlarged. Let's magnify these thoughts. Like I was already envisioning it and thinking of it, and I was creating book covers to a book that didn't even exist, and I was wrapping it on somebody else's book and walking around saying, this is my book, this is my book, this is my book, this is my book, and I just wished it into existence. And then what wound up, then fear comes in, and then it's like, oh no, I can't do this. Who's going to listen to me? And so it sat on my computer for 3 years. That's transparent. It sat on my computer for 3 years because I was trying to make it perfect, or I was trying not to release it. But when the timing is right, God will move you. And I'm gonna let you know there's no excuses. I had surgery on one of my eyes, on this left eye. And so at that moment, I'm sitting on the couch. God told me to open my computer up and finish it. So I finished this book with one eye.
Amen.
So no excuses. Get it done when God gives you the time and move.
And to close us out, tell us how you got your title, Mari.
My title mostly came from my wife because every time.
Your wife is the GOAT. Where's she at? She here.
We need her to be a co-author on that book.
Yes, give it up for the wife. Yes.
Because I would tell her, I wrote this many pages, I wrote this many words, and then she would ask me, do you have a title yet? I was like, no. And then she's like, okay, find a title. And then and then I kept trying, and then I kept writing, and then every time I tell her I wrote something, she'd say, well, do you have a title yet? I was like, no, I don't have a title. And then one day we were just sitting and watching TV, and then she's like, your story seems to be about the legacy of the characters. Why don't you incorporate that into the title? I was like, okay, that's a pretty good idea. And then I was like sitting at my computer, and then I was thinking, the main characters are the Camonis, so they're about the Camoni legacy, and then the book is about the failed initiation ceremony of one of the main characters. I was like, Camoni legacy initiation, that works. And then I told her, I was like, yes, and then that's actually a great title. So that's where that came from.
Do you have a part 2 coming out?
Yeah, that's it. It's a trilogy, right?
Yes, it's the first in a planned series. The second book will not take 15 years. I am also working on a Black Mermaid novel in concurrence with book 2. So I'm working on both of those right now.
Movie deal. This is the new Children of Blood and Bone right here.
We need that on the screen for our children and grandchildren to look at.
Yes. So without further ado, we're going to wrap up this beautiful panel. And I hope everybody in the audience today really took something from each and every one of them. And make sure you buy their books, because that's important. They will be selling it. So buy it, because we need you guys to support Black art, and this is the way we do that. And I just want to thank you guys for being beautiful and shiny and gorgeous today, despite the rain. And I thank you guys and bless you all. And have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we taking?
I got you. Make sure we connect. I'll introduce you to my coach. No problem at all. Thank you. It's right here good, D? Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hey, hello. My name is Mikkel Dent. I go by therapist Mikkel D. Where you can find me on social media, because I don't know how God gonna use my voice and I don't want to forget in the end. So where you can find me on social media is therapist_Mikkel D. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. My website is therapistmikkelD.com. So I'll start off with this. I want to ask you a question. What happens when a little girl from 53206, one of America's most challenging zip codes, have the audacity to imagine an outward imagination? I'll tell you what, she no longer survives. She learned how to live. She no longer dreams. She learned that her dreams can become a reality. I don't want to just tell you about my story. I want you to walk away from here with the truth. And that truth is, you, yes, you, were made for a time like this. You were made for this moment. Sometimes I think back and I just imagine how, I gotta stand up. I just sit back and I imagine how society lied to me, how they began to write my story before I was even old enough to write. But what they did was count me out, but I counted me in. For those who listening, how many know that God will qualify the unqualified? That was me. And because of that, yes, I own a nonprofit organization. Yes, I have moved 15,000 of girls all around the world understand their confidence. Yes, I have walked the stage on TEDx and empowered and encouraged people to remove their masks and become the authentic them. Yes, I do a movement, Boss Fly Girls, to teach women how to unmask and heal that little girl inside of them so they can truly walk in their power that is within inside of them. I have did those things. But none of that was how it started for me. It wasn't always like that. Where I come from, power, it's not given to us, it's snatched. Policy, it's not written for us, it's written against us. And if you want to mention progress, where was that at? No one was coming to look for us. That was only something we prayed for. And if you're not careful enough, you will believe that surviving is living. You will think that because you begin to just live to survive. I became a product of my product. I remember those things and those days where I didn't even recognize myself. I remember selling those drugs. I remember becoming the teen mom. Why? Because society told me that's who I was. Society wrote my story for me. I didn't have people around me to put the pen in my hand. But it was that moment at my bare minimum, that story that they told me I should be shameful for, when I decided to unmask and I asked God, how did I get here? And he poured something inside of me. I began to go into therapy. I began tapping in. I walked back into my faith. And that's when I ignited my power. That's when I knew I was the evidence. That's when I knew I was my ancestors' wildest dreams. That's when I knew that I would walk this road because I deserve it. And not because I deserve it, because I have a calling and a purpose on my life. And those little girls that's coming behind me, they need to know that you can do it, no matter where you came from.
And now I strive every single day to do that to women. So if this sounds like you, if you know that you have a power within inside of you, if you wake up every day and society say you dope, but you go at home and you close your eyes and cry because you can't feel the dopeness, I am for you. I'm coming for you. Help me help you heal. Help me help you look inside of you. Help me help you get that power back. You don't have to do it afraid. It's time for us to unmask. It's time for us to get those imaginations back. It's time for us to put in that work. It's time for us to step in that power. It's time for us to change the world. If not now, then when? If not you, then who? We were made for a time, for this moment now. So if that sounds like you can meet me over here. I'm at 832. Scan my QR code. I have a purpose. I have a calling. I'm too scared of God not to feel it. This little black girl from 53206 is in Washington, D.C. It can happen. You're not just imagining, you see the vision. And I'm here to help you get over that barrier as a mental health therapist, but as God's servant. So if this you, everybody take your phones out. I want you to text this number. I want you to text the word heal. And if it's not you, like I tell my youth I serve, it don't gotta be you. You can say I got a cousin or I know a friend. So if it's not you yet, wink, wink, still text heal. The number 912. 468 0234. Again, that number is 912-468 0234. Heal. That's all you have to do. No one has to know. And I encourage you to unmask and just become you, the real you. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Good morning. My name is Nikki Alexander. I'm the author of this book, Arc of the Universe. It was released earlier this year, published through Strawberry Tree Books. It is contemporary fiction, and it's about a serious policy problem. Now, I'm a local author based here in Washington, D.C., and I'm a lawyer. And when I started law school, I realized we had a problem that nobody was really talking about. We know that private companies are dominating our space industry. It's happening right now. Private companies led by billionaires are at the forefront of a lot of our scientific progress. And we know that the people that work at these companies and these billionaires are not worried about us, they're not focused on us, and those companies are not representative. Only 24% of the aerospace workforce are women. And when we look to the future, this is not a decades off problem. This is a problem that's going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years. These companies are planning to explore other planets. They're thinking about settling Mars. What does that mean? It means that some of us are going to get left behind. It means that as they think about establishing a settlement, the first people to live on another planet, those people probably aren't going to look like us. And that was my inspiration for writing this book. It's a fiction book, but all of the research in the book is real. In this book, our main character, Carrie Davenport, is a black law professor at a prestigious university, and she has been selected to design a government for the first human settlement on another planet, on Mars. And so she's thinking about law, she's thinking about policy, she's thinking about history and government and how to create a new society of people from scratch. When the worst thing possible happens to her, she's driving one night and she experiences an instance of police brutality. And that changes her entire worldview. She realizes the government that we have here on Earth, here in the United States, this is not what we want to carry forward to another planet. And so she rethinks, what does equality look like? What does fairness look like? And what do we need to write into the Constitution to make it more fair? If the US Constitution isn't the model that we would want if we were starting a government from scratch, what would that government be? That's what's in Arc of the Universe. This book is about race and social justice in space travel. All of the research in the book is real. Critics have called it thought-provoking, smart, provocative. It is about Mars, but it's not science fiction. It's contemporary fiction, it's literary, it's helping us think through what the future looks like, because this is our future and we need to think about it before it's a problem. And so even though it's a heavy topic, it's about police violence, it's also hopeful because we're now redesigning government, we're now redesigning our policies, redesigning our society to make it more fair for all of us, more inclusive for all of us. So in this current moment, when we're talking about DEI, when we're talking about inclusion, this is a book that speaks to hope for the future. So it's Arc of the Universe. My name is Nikki Alexander. You can learn more about the book at NikkiAlexanderWrites.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, Nikki_writes_fiction, and learn more about this book. I hope you give it a try. It's a fun read. It's 300 pages, but it's a fast read, and I think it'll really get you thinking about where we're going in the future. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Me and Mike Sweeney.
Three
So,
more.
we got two. I got two. We got two. Who gets this one?
Right here, you're right there.
You need another one?
One more. We're supposed to be starting now. Is there a way for you to?
There's no way he can get up here. He's in a walk. I mean, he can't get up here.
Is
He's gonna
there?
have to sit from there.
He said.
Can you?
Also, I don't know how to.
I think it's already on. Is it already?
Is this? Oh. Yes. Yep. They're all on.
Okay.
Do you mind? Sure. Absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna have him sit here. Good shower. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't Yep, we can just move on. This chair, I can just pull up these. Okay.
I don't know if you sit there. Did you sit in there or you sit right here?
Well, I can't sit on here.
You can? You can't sit on that. No. So you have to sit right here.
No, Mr. Better.
No? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes, this is better.
I don't know if I
Okay.
can get up there.
All right. So I'll.
Yeah, he's gonna have to sit.
Okay. But we're just gonna. Okay. Yep. Yep. How to adjust.
Here's the mic.
Do.
Everybody get a mic.
I'm gonna put this over here.
Okay.
And you sit down there. I'll sit right here. And we'll.
Okay. Sorry, I'm taking your.
You're fine. You're fine.
How much time do we have? You said 10 minutes?
I'm sorry.
10 minutes when we say our thing, or?
I would say about 5.
5 minutes, okay.
It's I took mine off because it was just too many things. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Kalila Hines Winters. I am so excited to be here with these outstanding authors this morning. We are going to be talking about Hidden Signs, Invisible Patient, Black Health Matters. Everybody knows that Black health definitely matters, especially in this landscape that we're in, with everything going on as far as attacks to us as a people, but also to healthcare. So we're really excited. Oh, thank you. We're really excited to be here today. We have 4 excellent authors whose books all talk about Black health. So you are in for an absolute treat. I'm gonna have them, the way that this will work is I have a few questions and then we'll turn it over to the audience and you can ask a couple of your questions. I'm gonna start by just really thanking our sponsor, HarperCollins, for being able to support us today. And I'll turn it over to the authors to introduce themselves and also their book. And then we'll get right to the questions. So without further ado, I'm actually gonna start to my right here with Dr. Lawson. So go right ahead, Dr. Lawson.
Hello, I'm past president, Black Psychiatrists of America, and also past president of Institute, current CEO of Institute for Reducing Disparities, and past editor of the Journal of the National Medical Association. Currently here to discuss my book, which is about some of the editorials I did while I was in the journal, working with the journal, and also dealing with the fact that everything I talked about then is still very much real, and that is that we have faced serious disparities in terms of health care and mental health services.
Thank you. I'll go right to Dr. Champagne, and we'll just go right down the line.
Hello, my name is Dr. Florence Champagne, and my book is called Our Scars Matter. I am a heart survivor, having had a heart attack and open heart surgery, as well as wear a pacemaker. And it's a story of 5 women who are survivors that collaborated on this book together that reveal not only our outward scars, but our inward scars as well. So we'll take a deep dive into that as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Wim.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tamika Quinn. I am a 2-time stroke survivor and a heart surgery survivor as well. What my background is in speaking, writing, as well as helping others publish their books also. I brought along with me 1 pound of fat. So I want you to keep in mind as you see this during this segment that this is what 1 pound of fat looks like in our body, and fat contributes to so many metabolic disorders. And we're going to be talking about some of those disorders today, but fat truly does impact our metabolic health.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Norman Cesar, and I am a 19-year prostate cancer survivor. And I have written a book on how I survived prostate cancer. The title is Cancer Winner. My mission is to educate men and women about prostate cancer awareness. Prostate cancer is 96% curable if caught early. African American men are dying from disease you don't die from. So I'm passionate about getting the word out. I survived it, you can survive it also, so we'll dive into that.
Thank you all. Aren't they great? Isn't this going to be such a fabulous panel? I wanted to just ask you all to give us just the main idea for each of your books, really the main theme and message that you wish to get across by the reader who goes to buy your book later today. So we can actually start, we'll start with you, Dr.
Okay.
Mr. Caesar.
I would say education is the best defense against cancer. All cancers, no matter what it is. The more you know, the more you're educated about it, you can get screened and you can stay alive. You can survive prostate cancer or any other kind of cancer, but you have to catch it early. I caught it early. I survived it. I'm having a great time. I'm spending time with my grandkids. Had I not went in to see my doctor on a regular basis to get my physicals, get my blood tests, I may not be here today. I just turned 71. I had prostate cancer at 52. This abnormal cell was in my body. I didn't know it. But going to the doctor and get screened and get my blood work and make it my personal business, they found the cancer and they found it early, and early detection saves lives.
Yes, and some of the things that I talk about in my book, Change Your Mind, Change Your Waistline, is about how at 27 years old, I survived not one but 2 strokes, 3 days apart. And at 27 years old, I didn't even recognize the signs and symptoms of a stroke. I woke up that day with the worst migraine I thought was a migraine of my life. I felt like an elephant was sitting on my head. I knew that something was wrong, but I never connected it to stroke. And so to think that I just had my youngest daughter 10 days prior. To think that I would be having a stroke was the last thing on my mind. I thought that the face of stroke looked like my grandmother. I didn't think that at 27 I was the face of stroke. But I talk about those warning signs, the things that I really ignored. My weight was a major issue. I was obese. I ignored high blood pressure, which I developed during that pregnancy, called preeclampsia. There were other warning signs like my vision diminishing that I never connected. And so in the book, I talk about those connectors, those warning signs, what I did after the stroke, mostly post-stroke, to get back to the state that I'm in today and to help not only myself make those lifestyle changes, but my family as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Our Scars Matter. It reveals not only the outward scars, but inward scars as well. 50% of the people diagnosed with heart disease also are diagnosed with some form of depression. And so we look into that as well. One of our co-authors revealed in her chapter how she didn't realize until much later in life that the impact of seeing her mother die at 4 years old came back to haunt her, and it was something that she buried deep down in her mind and in her memory. But she ended up having open heart surgery and eventually led to a heart transplant. One of our other authors, co-authors, also was a caregiver for her husband for many years until it took a toll on her, and then she had a heart attack. And so there's stories that reveal not only a patient, but the person behind these heart events and strokes as well. So we look into that, not only the statistics, but how we as women are the caregivers of our families, how we are the mothers, we are the spouses, we are the homeowners, and we take on everyone else's burdens until it impacts our health. So we'll be looking into that in the face of disparities in treatment. So we'll be looking into that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing with us today. I know that disparity.
Oh, he didn't.
Yep. Disparities is a real thing, a real impact. It's a real serious impact. Most of the diseases that we're talking about are actually preventable. So make sure that you're getting your screenings. It's really important. I wanted to share, I wanted to have you all share your professional backgrounds with us because I know that will play a role in your being an author, and some of you are have multiple books. So please talk about your professional background. And then I know the two of you, Dr. Quinn and Dr. Champagne, you both have legislative work that you've done. So please share with that. Share share that information as well. So we can actually start, we'll start in the middle. Why don't we start in the middle this time?
Sure. I'm the founder of GLAM, Giving Life and Motivation. It's a 501c3. We actually go out into the community and bring awareness and prevention of stroke, heart disease, and childhood obesity. We do a lot of work in the school system. We're really active in the community in terms of bringing the awareness, because we are the ones that are affected most by stroke, by heart disease, as well as by childhood obesity. I have that nonprofit organization. I have 12 books that I've authored. I actually have, and I speak nationally. I'm an ambassador with the American Heart Association, and I've been active in legislation getting passed, primarily the sodium warning label bill in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That warning label lets people know when they sit down at a restaurant and look at the menu which items are high in sodium, because we can make a decision to change our lives, right, and to make a different choice for our lifestyle. But if we don't know what's in the food that we're eating, how will we really be making those changes? And so that is something that we are pushing to get legislation, not just in Pennsylvania, but in Virginia and other states as well.
You can go next, yep, and then we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, yeah, I don't have much to say about that. I'm a retired letter carrier. I work for U.S. Postal Service, retired after 34 years. And so now that's all I do. I live in Florida. I relocated to Florida. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I work here, and I lived here all my life. But I retired to Florida, so I can just enjoy my life. I play golf, I walk the beach, and I meditate, and I just enjoy life. So I'm not doing anything else.
Awesome. Dr. Lawson, if you can just share with us your professional background.
Yeah, I started out as an animal researcher in psychology, got impressed with the technology that we had, so impressed I went to medical school, then went out and became a psychiatrist, and it was for a long time chair of psychiatry at Howard, then became associate dean at the Dell Medical School, started a new medical school to try to improve integrated care, and then recently discovered that even though we have all this technology, we've made all these changes, our people are not getting those services. I was shocked to learn that Washington, D.C., while it has a number of African American psychiatrists, most people don't know who they are. I was shocked when I went out into Austin, Texas, supposed to be the healthiest place in the country, and yet they had the worst outcomes in terms of African Americans. So I realized that part of the issue is going out and then communicating to the community, working with our church, such as the organization, the LCAC, Leadership for Healthy Communities in D.C., found a nonprofit to deal with gun violence in D.C. through several organizations locally, and I also consult with several mental health clinics. I thought I had retired, but I'm finding that I've ended up working almost full time because of dealing with the problems that's existing in our community.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Okay, so my organization is called the Open My Heart Foundation. I'm the founder and CEO, and we've been around for 11 years now. And our mission is to help eliminate heart health disparities among African American women and women of color. And I'm a social worker by trade, but God gave me purpose through my pain and suffering. And that's why I started the organization, because I found that I was not alone in experiencing disparities in treatment. And so we advocate for women and we advocate for legislation as well. And I'm very proud, most recently, of the legislation that we had passed. It's called HB or House Bill 666 and Senate Bill 60, where it is required coverage for calcium score testing. And that is cardiac screening. It's a preventive measure that insurance providers must now pay for. I always felt like if heart disease is the leading cause of death, then why aren't we being screened for it? If I had been screened for heart disease early on, it could have prevented my heart attack. So now it's required coverage. It takes effect January 2026. It was just passed and signed into law by Governor Wes Moore, May of 2025.
Clap for that. We can clap for that.
So now my issue has impacted over 6 million Marylanders.
Wow.
thank you so much, all of you, for the work that you're doing, the work that you're doing in your, and even the work that you're doing as a retiree, because rest is really important. I want to know from you all, what is the driving force to move you, that moved you from vision forward to know that you're made for this moment? So you had a thought about a book. What made you, what took it from a thought in your head to the book that you're holding right now? So anyone can jump in, but I want to hear from all of you because you all have a story to tell there.
So I can speak on that. I had suffered 2 strokes, right, at 27. The entire left side of my body was paralyzed. I had to relearn how to do everything. And not only that, I had doctors who had given me very negative prognosis, meaning every day I spent 3.5 weeks in ICU. They would come to my room and tell me just how bad it was going to be the rest of my life. You're not going to be able to walk anymore. You'll need assistance the rest of your life. You know, there were all of these negative prognoses. I never believed any of them because I know I serve a God that can do all things.
That's right.
And so there was never even a time that I submitted to those prognoses. However, after my discharge and going through months and months of rehabilitation, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, because I certainly did not speak like this, I just kind of got settled back into my life. And I left it at that. It was not until my daughter, who's over here with me, she's really my right hand. She was 8 years old and she was diagnosed with severe high cholesterol and obesity at 8. That was when the light bulb came on for me. That was 5 years after I had suffered 2 strokes. So sometimes it's not what happens to us, but what happens to the people who impact us or who we impact. That was when I decided I'm going to learn as much as I can about nutrition, about changing our life at home, about what things to throw out of our pantry, about what foods to purchase, to grow. It was a total life change, and I talk about all of those things in Change Your Mind, Change Your Waistline.
Thank you.
Okay. For me, as a prostate cancer survivor, I wanted to somehow share with men. I went through it, and I survived it. You have to catch it early, and I wanted to share this information. So I volunteered to become an advocate for prostate cancer awareness with a local organization in Alexandria called Zero Death to Prostate Cancer. And I attended summits and Zooms and webinars, and I learned all this information. I was at a summit in Virginia and learning about prostate cancer awareness, and men there, they did not know, some of the men, that they even had a prostate until they had a prostate problem. Then at that age, you should have already been screened for prostate cancer years ago. But they don't know. No one told them. We're not doctors. We just do what we need to do. We go to work, we watch the game, and we're not doctors. But if you go to the doctor for preventive medicine and get a checkup every year, the doctor will tell you, at a certain age, you need this screening, and you need this done. I made it my point in life, starting at age 35, to I made it personal. I'm going to the doctor, I'm going to get my physicals. I was encouraged to do so. And so at age 52, they found cancer, and I had it removed. And I became an advocate to share with men, we can talk about this. Listen, this is what men need to know. Prostate cancer and breast cancer is the same disease. It's hereditary. You can get it from your mother's side of the family or your father's side of the family. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's nothing I was doing wrong. I was doing everything right. So we have to stay on top of our health. We have to take time to stay on top of our health, and we have to share this with all the men in our contact group. Here's another thing, women. If your father had prostate cancer, women can inherit the gene that caused breast cancer or ovarian cancer from the father. So we all need to stay on top of our health to find out what's going on, what screening we need, and it can save your life. It saved my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. How many of you know in your deepest, darkest hour, the promises that you made to God? And that's where I was. After I had my heart attack, and I became depressed. And I asked God, why did you save me? He said, to tell your story. That's what started not only the book writing, but a ministry. And I felt as though I was about to lose my life, but I had a vision of me going before the throne of grace and God saying, "What did you do with the gifts and talents that I gave you?" That is what catapulted me to write my first book. And it's called Inez's Granddaughter. So now I'm 4 books later, Amazon bestseller. And so I've been telling my story ever since. And I truly know that it was a ministry because I didn't know how to tell my story. And I was approached in the hospital and asked to join an organization called Women Heart. Women Heart is a national coalition of women that supports women with heart disease. So we're over 1,000 members nationwide. And then I also branched off and started my own foundation when I felt that there was a need to address African American women and the African American community because of the disparities in treatment. So that's what started me on the journey to my story of sharing our scars, because our scars tell a different story. So it had to be told. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lawson?
Yeah, one of the experiences I had was when I got into medical school, the first thing the guy said was, "You're lucky." I was at a school, I was only two black people in my class. I said, "Why so?" "You people don't get depressed." I said, "Son of a gun." And this wasn't 100 years ago either. And that's when I realized that many of the providers don't have the message. And that's when I also realized that many of us don't have the message. A lot of us do get depressed, and not only are we getting depressed, but as some of you may be aware, this is Suicide Prevention Month, and African American men are now the second largest group in terms of suicide in the country. And also, we also found that all too often, it's probably an underestimate. Why? Because a colleague of mine, Nathan Harris, said we have what we call quasi-homicide. That is that how many of those drug overdoses that we have that's killing a lot of our young people, how many of these strokes, delay going to get your prostate cancer examined, how many of that is an indirect way of doing the same thing? So in many ways, we're killing ourselves, not just going out, put a gun to our head and blowing our brains out, but because of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, that thing that's supposed to happen to combat our veterans, but is more common in our community. We're going out and neglecting what needs to be done. Why is this happening? One of the things I wanted to, was this from something that we are doing to ourselves deliberately? And this is why I get into the book. We have policies and rules that prevent these issues from being addressed. We talk about the problem, that we had legislation that said we shouldn't do research into black-on-black homicide. We have legislation that said that we should restrict the kind of care that we get in our community. So that's a big motivation to this book, and that is that a lot of what our providers are struggling with, you can play a very important role in terms of doing not only preventive care, but becoming involved with the provider community to let our politicians and others know that we have needs that have to be addressed.
Thank you. Yes, we can definitely clap for that. I want to just ask, I know that it wasn't easy for you all to write your books, so if anyone wants to share the challenges that they faced while writing the book with us, we'd really like to hear that, because I know it's not an easy process. So if anyone wants to share with us about that, any challenges you face, go ahead.
Sure, I'll start. So some people may or may not really want to share their story. This is a book collaboration. So one of the challenges is to have people actually feel encouraged, feel bold enough, feel vulnerable enough to share their story. To me, it was never a question of telling my story, but I found with a book collaboration, other people may be a little bit shy and it causes them to look deep inside of themselves. Sometimes it's very emotional to share not only the outward scars, but the inward scars and what they went through, and it's bringing up a very painful experience. So that's one of the challenges that I face.
I think another challenge, and to piggyback off of that, that's a huge challenge. Oftentimes we'll have this book inside of us, right? And carry it for years, but never reach the point of birthing that book because it's painful. It's painful to think about that time period that you want to talk about, and it just brings up emotions that you may not be ready to deal with. And so for me, getting through that first book took a lot of teamwork. I didn't do it by myself. I hired a book coach to help me, to assist me, because there are technical pieces to writing a book that go far beyond your story or your testimony. And so the technical pieces is what is required for you to be able to produce a book, but your story is what's going to give it the fuel, it's going to give it the heart, it's going to give it what people need. So I would always encourage everyone to hire a coach. Invest in yourself by getting coaching.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. For me, it became my purpose, my mission to write this book. Somebody had to tell the story. Somebody had to encourage men. This book solved the problem. This book saved lives. And it took me 10 years to write this book because there was so much personal information in writing this book. I pulled back the curtains of the exam room, of the doctor's exam room, and share with men the things that happened, the examination and what took place, how it took place. And I was okay with that because I was trying to save my life, whatever it takes. And I want to be an example for that and let men know that it's okay. Leave your manhood in the car, go get exam, and stay alive. Early detection saves lives, and the Lord has sent me to deliver a message to the body of Christ and the world. You should not be dying from prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is 96% curable. Why are we dying from it? African American men are dying 3 times the rate of any other race in the country from a disease you shouldn't die from. So this is my story. I got to get it out there. And women, listen, y'all play a very important part. Because sometimes men, we don't always read, we don't have time, we're working 2 jobs, we got to mow the yard, we're watching the game. But listen, if you buy the book, if you listen to the book, my book's now audio with Barnes & Noble and other places, and get this information and share it with your husband, your son needs this information, and say, listen, because I love you so much, if I make an appointment for you, I will go with you, and afterwards, I will buy you lunch. And then what man gonna turn that down?
Right.
Listen, if my wife buy me lunch, I'll go shopping with her.
There you go. Do you want to share, Dr. Lawson?
Yeah, I just want to say, my issue was not in terms of getting something written down. I have over 200 publications, deeply buried in scientific journals. Most people had not read of them. Most people had not heard of it. So I said, wait a minute, what am I writing all this stuff down? And nobody is getting that information and doing something with it. And that's when I decided, let me go on out here and write me a book and see what happens. And quickly found, going to our churches, going to the local community, that's where the action was. What's good, having the words in my head, of having a lot of factual data, having a lot of research, is nobody in the community knows about it. And that is why I decided to do this book, why we promoted just journals as a journal of the National Medical Association, and why we're now getting on to social media to get the word out through our organization, the Black Health Trust, to let the community know that, as stated by our other authors, many of these problems and diseases are preventable. There's no reason why we should have these huge disparities in care. And if you get the information, you quickly find that there are things that you, not just your doctor, you can do something about it to change the quality of life.
Thank you. So I'm going to really quickly bring it to the audience. If you have one question, not a comment, please. A question, please, please. I see a hand right here.
I'd like to ask, what is that
Sure. She asked about what is the type of test. There's several different type of diagnostic tests that you can take. To be honest with you, I went to the ER several times with shortness of breath. I had the very basic EKG, a chest x-ray. I've even had a stress test that did not reveal anything. So it wasn't until I had something called a cardiac catheterization that revealed, and that's when they inject dye in your system to see if there's any blockage. That revealed that my main artery was 99.9% blocked. There's another type of screening that we advocated for recently, the one that just passed, and that is called the calcium score test. And that determines, it's a CT scan, it's non-invasive, and you go into a tube, and that determines the amount of calcium built up in your arteries, and they give you a score, a number, to determine the amount of calcium in your arteries that could be a red flag for heart disease or coronary artery disease. So if you haven't had any type of screening yet, you should at least get a calcium score testing. And they have to justify why now they have to offer it, but justify why you're getting this test, because you may or may not show any symptoms, and that's okay. But you can say, because it runs in my family. Diabetes runs in my family. High blood pressure runs in my family. Obesity runs in my family. So those are risk factors. So know your risk factors. If you have any heart disease, strokes in your family, high blood pressure, diabetes, know some of the risk factors that justifies you getting that type of screening. It could be. It could be. I'm not a medical doctor, but it's something to be checked out as far as she asked about poor blood circulation. So it could be. And women, signs and symptoms are a little bit different for women as opposed to men. Some of the symptoms could be lower back pain. That could be a sign or symptom of heart disease. So read up on it, know some of the symptoms. Feeling nauseous is a symptom for women in heart disease. Having a jaw and neck pain could be a symptom. So know some of these things. I never really felt the big elephant or crushing chest pains. And they base a lot on white males from studies and things like that. We are very underrepresented when it comes to clinical trials. So know some of these very vague symptoms, and it could be a matter of your heart.
Let me quickly, get a quick point that is, please, if you have an opportunity to participate in clinical trials, we aren't in them. And a lot of the information we have is inadequate because we aren't in these studies. And also, don't just accept results of tests. There's a push to remove race and diversity in terms of the meaningfulness of these tests. My providers should know better, came out and said, you black man, we shouldn't do it. He's doing our PSA. You're too old. You'll be dead anyhow. That's the kind of things that some of our providers are doing. Look into it in depth and beware that some of them simply aren't aware or care that some of the results have different meaning when it's involved with African Americans.
Thank you. So we are right at time, but I do want to give the authors a chance to tell you where they will be, if they're going to be in the if they're going to be in the exhibit hall today and throughout the conference, and then also how to connect on social media. So I'm going to go through and let them tell you where you can reach out to them, because these are books that you need to buy. You need this information, so please follow up with them, get their books. They have a wealth of knowledge to share. I'm going to start. Go ahead. You're right. Jump right in there.
Okay, great. I have several books with me today. In addition to Change Your Mind, Change Your Waistline, I have a coloring book for children between the ages of 4 and 12. The coloring book has all melanated characters, and it's about nutrition. So oftentimes we want to change our lifestyle at home, but how do we implement that change? Well, the coloring book called Color Me Healthy helps parents to be able to initiate healthy food choices at home. Also, I have a stroke activity book for people who have any kind of cognitive changes. It's a cognitive behavior activity book that will help rejuvenate your mind. And so my contact my table is right here, but you can reach me all over social media at Dr. Tamika Quinn, and that's Tamika. Dr. Tamika Quinn on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook as well.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. You can go to my website. My name is Norman Caesar. So if you go normancaesar.org, you go to my website, order my book. However, I do have a few books now, and I do have a few bookmarks free. So, and you need more information, just I'll be here for a while, so I'll be glad to answer any questions and share my book.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Okay, so you can find my book at openmyheartfoundation.org. That's openmyheartfoundation.org. And I'm located right over here in the corner. Our Scars Matter, and that's where you can find me. Thank you.
And Dr. Lawson?
And I'll be around for a little while. My website is www.reducing-disparities.com, www.reducing-disparities.com. I have several books on Amazon, including one, this book is an Amazon bestseller, and one that's upcoming that's not on there yet called What Did the Slave Masters Teach Us? That I try to explain why we're doing what we're doing. We learned too well from the slave masters how to survive as a slave. And now we got to unlearn that so we can survive as a people. Also, I'm all over social media, so I shouldn't, William Lawson, MD. I'm also in many of the scientific websites as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr.
I just want to leave you with the signs of stroke. I would be remiss not to. We can remember this acronym FAST, F-A-S-T. The first sign is facial drooping or any type of facial shift. That sign I had at 27 years old, and I blamed that on me laying down from a headache. I thought, oh, I've been laying on this pillow so long, it has just made an indentation on my face. I made excuses for it. But we have to recognize those signs. The A is for arm weakness or arm pain. And sometimes as women, as we were saying, that pain can even go to our back. And so you want to be cognizant of any type of left-sided pain that can be attributed to stroke also. The S is for slurred speech, and my speech was definitely different, but I didn't hear it as bad as other people heard it. And so sometimes you might hear your friend or your coworker slurring their words. Look more into it, because it may be a medical condition and possibly even a stroke that they're experiencing. The T is for time, and we don't have a lot of time. The amount of time that we spend without getting treatment for a stroke really contributes to the deficits that you see from stroke survivors. That time is a very crucial piece, and so you want to dial 911 immediately, not try to drive yourself to the emergency room if you think you're having a stroke.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being here, all of you authors. Thank you for your work that you've done. We are not invisible patients. Black health does matter. So, yeah. Thank you. I'm going to take a group picture.
Oh, wow.
Hello? Yes. Hi, good morning, everybody. Do I have any science fiction or fantasy readers out here? Not so much. Wonderful. Well, I love to introduce a genre to folks. My name is Cerise Rennie Murphy, and I am an independently published, self-published author that is from Washington, D.C. Yay! Yes, born and raised here. And I write science fiction and fantasy novels. I write books that excite the imagination and move the soul. So I'm excited to talk to you today about my latest book, which is called In the Garden of Light and Shadow, The Chronicles of Ada St. James. And it is about a demon-slaying nun, actually, and a demon who meet and fall in love. They have a child, and that child becomes a soul portal that could save the world. The setting for the book is a world that did not experience colonialism or slavery. And it was really an exciting challenge to bring all of the innovation that had been stalled or hidden or stolen from ancient cultures in Africa, India, and all over the world to actually put it in a steampunk setting. So it was really exciting. This is the first book in the series. The second one comes out in November, next month. Or almost next month. So if you are looking for your next good read, this is a great time to jump into the series. But I also want to talk to you about what I love about science fiction and fantasy. You know, it is, to me, at its core, it is a genre that is about hope. And in this time, and always, hope is something in our community that needs to be deeply cultivated and nurtured at every corner. Hope allows you to imagine the possibility of a world and a reality that is beyond what your current situation or reality is. It is the seed of every movement, every innovation, and every effort towards change that has ever happened in our society or ever will. It's the reason, and I think science fiction and fantasy really nurtures that in a really exciting and wonderful way. It's why I love the genre, and it's why I write it. So, if you'd like to learn more about me or my books, you can go to CeriseRennieMurphy.com and learn more. I also have a giveaway of the first book in the series. It's a signed paperback copy, and I wanted to ask, is there anybody out there who knows who is the godmother of Afrofuturism? Is there anybody out there? Yes. Yes, ma'am. All right. This goes to you. If you haven't read Octavia Butler, treat yourself. All right, so I'm going to give this to you when I'm done. But I also have some bookmarks that I'm going to put right by that plant over there for anybody who'd like to check out my books. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for helping me be a part of Spark Talk. Take care. Good luck. Thank you so much.
Hi, hello everyone. Hi again. Let's wake up. Habari yako? It's Swahili word. How are you? Loidi? It's a Dinka word. How are you? Good morning. Hi, hello everyone. My name is Rebecca Deng. I am the author of this book called What They Meant for Evil. How many of you in this room have heard of the Lost Boys of Sudan? Good. And how many of you have heard of the Lost Girls of Sudan? Pure people. So I'm one of the Lost Girls of Sudan that came in 2000, November 6, 2000, the very first plane that landed in the United States. I was in that flight. I was only 14 going to 15. So I knew nothing about the United States. I didn't speak English. I was one of those names that you hear, the refugee from Africa. As if Africa is a country, it's a continent. I was born in southern part of Sudan, grew up there with a normal life. I had 3 meals a day. Don't know what anger is about or war, which are the stereotype we know about Africa. I come from a Dinka tribe, Nubian people, So civilization was in our blood. I'm called Rebecca. It's not adopted name. My people have been Christian from the beginning of time, before the Roman Empire. So I heard that there was a war happening in my country, but I was on the Nile, living the life. When people see the Lion King and they see the wildebeest and all of that, that was my typical life. The only disaster I knew is that when the season come, when animal migrated to go to by the water, that's the only thing I knew. I knew nothing about war. But then my country had the longest civil war in African history, but it was fought far away. My dad was a minister and he was a soldier. So every time he come with these guys and greet us, I know that there were soldiers because they had guns, but I never heard a sound of guns. And before they even come and greet us, my grandmother have a ceremony where they will kill a bull, they will kill a cow, and then my dad and his soldiers will have to like jump over it. And she did that as a tournament. She said that when soldiers go to war, they enter in different war, they cannot come and greet the children and women, innocent people that were not there, so there have to be some sort of a tournament. So that was my life. But then, ending of 1991, the war finally hit my village. And it was the first time I ran. And my grandmother told me, you are going away for 1 week, you will be back. And I believed her. And then a week turned into month, a month turned into month, and more, and then more time passed, and 1 year later, I'm now at the border of Sudan, now South Sudan and Kenya. And that was the first time I heard of the word refugee. And I was like, what is it? They're like, you are a refugee, you are entering into a different country now, and you will be given an identification card which doesn't have my name. And I say, no, that's not me. I name my name because we are asked when we are 5 years old to name our genealogy to 20. So I go on, I say, my name is Rebecca Nyanundenga Welelunga Ajang. I come from this tribe. They say, it doesn't matter. Here is your card. You are a number. You don't even have a name. So I was in a refugee camp for 8 years. 8 years in Kakuma refugee camp. And then when the program, the Lost Boys of Sudan, came, which a lot of people, advocates, including some members of the Congressional Black Caucus, because they've been following these young children that have been troubling, we were allowed to come to this country. It was a bipartisan agreement. So about 3,400 boys came and only 79 girls. And so this book here is my history. It just became a finalist book of the year. So I will be heading to LA for the gala coming up. And one thing that was hard for me was coming up with the title. The title is What They Meant for Evil. I had in my mind what the enemy meant for evil by killing my whole family. My family died in the war. I was the only one that made it out. And then I was in a refugee camp. It took me 8 years. I knew that some people last year came to this country called refugee and they are back. It took me 8 years. I was there. And then when I arrived in this country, I was able to go to school. I can speak English. I graduated with honors degree from high school. I went to college. I have my master's degree. But then when I think about why did I acquire all of this, I thought of my ancestors that came here, the African American. What was meant evil for them, God intended for good, the saving of many lives. So when I came later on, I sit on the shoulders of the work that have been done before me, and that's where the title of my book comes from, the evil that was done personally to me, and evil that was done to the people that came before me, and the evil that is still go on in the world today. One of the biggest questions I ask here is, why do innocent people suffer and the unjust people seem to thrive? That question, you cannot answer it with logical thing, but you can make sense later on. Suffering and trauma, they give you strength. They give you empathy. When you see people's story or look at people, you know that God can heal them and healing is possible. So that's the main topic of my book. It has been star reviewed by Publishers Weekly and Hachette Book Group. That's my publisher, and also Carcass Review, which two magazines that don't agree on one thing and they like this book. The audio is narrated by C.D. LaLoca. She's a leading voice in Lion King, the musical, and she's South African princess. So this is a good book. You find it out by yourself. I have copies, so I will be doing book signing here. And pray for me that it become on the screen. Because the very beginning, I take you through the journey of a normal black girl living on the Nile. The Nile people belong to Sudan. So it takes you that, and you will learn a lot of history there, and also you will learn different things about immigrants and refugees. People put them together sometimes, but it's a different title. And refugee, that decision is made for you. You can be sitting like we're sitting and we're running or sleeping. So thank you so much, and find me, Rebecca Deng. You can order it wherever books are ordered. It is in 180 libraries worldwide. The furthest one is in Singapore. I looked it up this morning. So find me. Thank you. There you go, my love.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Everyone is looking so lovely. I see my beautiful sister there. We had a really great chat earlier. My lovely mentee, Dr. Valicia Kate. I have to sit down. I'm sorry. I need to be comfortable. I am Dr. Kamika Lynette Bell. I am the author of Girls with Pearls, a moving story of inspiration, mentorship, and empowerment. I am also the founder and executive director of Girls with Pearls. It is a 501c3 organization located in Wilmington, Delaware, celebrating 13 years. And all of my girls are beautiful girls of color, black and brown girls, and I'm really working with girls to strive for excellence in the areas of the arts, service, leadership, etiquette, and public speaking. I wrote this book, and it was a long time coming. It took me probably about 7 to 10 years to really get it going and to publish it last year. And it really talks about my life story of how I got started in mentorship. And it was some phenomenal woman who poured into my life to help me become the young lady that I am today. I grew up in Chester, Pennsylvania, violence, drugs. And it's because of mentorship that I was able to escape it and people just seeing something great in me. And I have a pageant background. And there was a wonderful lady who I was very shy, didn't want to speak in front of no one, and she went to my mom and asked my mom that I should participate in an oratorical contest. And I would have never thought in a million years I would be even on this stage speaking and talking about my book. And a young girl who lacked confidence, but there was a lady who saw something in me, asked me to participate in an oratorical contest, my first time ever speaking. I had to come up with a speech. And there was an elementary school teacher who I would meet with, and she would help me with my writing. And she saw writing skills in me at a very young age. And I went on to compete in the oratorical contest, and my topic was Up You Mighty Race. You can accomplish what you will. Anybody know who's that by? Up You Mighty Race. You can accomplish what you will. Marcus Garvey. And I participated in an oratorical contest, my first time ever in public speaking, and I came in third place. There was a lady in the audience who approached my mom and asked my mom for me to compete in the Miss Pennsylvania teen pageant, my first pageant ever, and first runner-up. And for their life, doors started to open for me, helped me with my confidence, competed in the Miss America system, the Miss USA, and my life started to change. So I've been doing a lot of civic work, working in the community. And then my father was my huge inspiration, my huge inspiration. He was an activist, taught me a lot about Black history. And my father passed away suddenly a few years ago. So I was in a lot of pain. I felt my father dead. So dealing with grappling the memories of walking in and seeing my father dead. And it was a lot. And then running an organization, being a leader, and dealing with a lot of stress with helping people and people betraying you. So I had to find a way to heal. And the young lady up here mentioned a lot of times people want to rush and write a book. And I knew that 4 years ago wasn't a timing, because God had to still heal me. Information in this book was meant to bless some other people. So I talk a lot about my father's death. I talk about my cousin who was gunned down in a crossfire. And I had to add this information in the book and let God use me. And I'll talk a lot about that. And the book is really about how do we pour back and how do we walk in purpose and mentor other young people as well. And it's faith-based. There's a lot of scriptures in here to help you throughout your day. And I'm an award-winning author. I was 4th place for the Delaware Press Association. I was nominated and I won 4th place among a lot of authors. So I was really excited about that for my first book. So God is really, really faithful. Just to encourage you, anybody out there, of any pitfalls and challenges. For me, there were moments where I had the writer's block, and I was shifting my brain to write like a scholar, because I was working on my dissertation, and I was working on my book at the same time. So shifting my brain to write like a scholar and to write everyday writing was a challenge for me. And coaching, I really wanted to make sure the book was done right. I did not want to just put anything out. I didn't want to put anything put together. I wanted to be Black excellence. So I did seek out to coaches, people who done it very, very well. Even though I'm a phenomenal writer, I wanted to make sure I had a really great editor to look at my writing. Like, Kamika, you tell me more. Like, you're kind of holding back. People need to hear. So that editor was very helpful for me to kind of write more and to have me to think from a different lens. And just to never give up. I mean, you are the captain of your ship. And you don't ask for permission to do anything. And I believe I spent many of my years waiting for people to give me the green light to move forward. And you have to know that you know that you know that God has called you for such a time as this to do what you're supposed to do. So for me, is this that do it. Do not wait for a green light. Don't wait for permission or anyone to validate you. Know that you are great. You have purpose, and someone needs to hear your story. My book can be found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can also find me on social media, Dr. Kamika Lynette on Instagram, and on Facebook, Kamika Lynette. And yes, that's it. And just keep on going. Tell your story. Tell your story. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I know. That's why I need a timer.
That's okay.
Okay. These are some amazing stories being shared in this space. And I'm so excited to be able to moderate our next authors showcase session, which is Restoring Humanity. This is so important right now, where we are dealing with transitions, changes. And for some people, it's not always a happy place, right? It can be very disruptive. And when people are going through transitions, whether it's by choice, by force, or just something that they were pushed out, that leaves a wound. And I like to call it a soul wound. Any loss is a soul wound. And one of the things that has happened, once there is an empty place in the workplace, disruption, changes, transformations, it can be very toxic. It can be a very toxic work environment. And how do you navigate those emotions and feelings when everyone is holding on to a bumpy plane ride, right? You're going through the clouds and there's a
put your seatbelt on. We're having some turbulence. And that's what it's like in a toxic work environment. When you go in, it can be very, weigh you down. It can cause you to misstep in your performance because you're just trying to survive. We're going to start our session off with an introduction. Introduce myself. I'm Sharon Patterson. Already qualifies to be the moderator and talk on toxic environment and what. First one is my journal. It's a healing journal for women. It's called Peace. It's not something you have to chase. It's something that God gives to us freely. And this book has a journaling sessions in there, but it also has some interaction words to help you to navigate loss, help you to navigate a toxic work environment, but also help you to heal your relationship. So this is the first one here. The second one is called Survival Revival. It's power to transition, and because most importantly, you want to survive transition, but you want to thrive in it. So transition can be a good thing. And so I'm going to start with the introduction to my right with Ms. Lindsay.
I'm sharing this on. It's working. Thank you. Hi. First off, thank you so much for having me here on this stage. I've been in HR for over 25 years, and the hearing aids. And so I have seen what happens. And frankly, I have been unhappy with HR. I know we're doing it wrong. It wasn't always, I wasn't always that way. I started out divorced 3 times with 2 kids, single mom, no education, and I was privileged enough that my parents could take us in, and I went back to school. But when I went back to school, I still needed to provide for my girls, so I went to work for Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield of Utah. I do not like insurance companies, but I will forever be grateful to them because they gave me the opportunity to work part-time, still have benefits for my kids, and they had on-site daycare. And that was the moment that I realized how much a workplace could impact your life. So after 25 years, I realized that more people need to know this, right? More people need to know they're not using it. And so I left corporate to start my own Kinder HR consulting firm. And I provide training and leadership to help people move into a kinder place because the world is divided.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lindsay. And so we have Adrian.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. I'm Adrian West. I'm a 33-year retiree from the United States Coast Guard. I've been in leadership for over 30 years. And to just back on what the two of you were speaking of, a toxic work environment and things of that nature. I am not Marcus Kennedy. I'm not the author of Intrusive Leadership. However, I am in the Kennedy Leadership Group. The main point of intrusive leadership is to realize some of those things that you were just speaking of. Life is coming after everyone. And Life University is going to get its curriculum off no matter whether we sign up for it or not. And so realizing that, Marcus took it upon himself to make sure in the pages of this book that leaders realize that employees are working with more than just the tasking that they receive when they get to work. When you leave your house, who knows what folks have been facing outside of the workplace. But those things come to work with you. They're in the backseat of your car. They ride in your backpack when you walk to the office. They sit at your desk with you and you deal with those all day. Who would not want to have leadership who realizes that you are more than just the tasking that we give you? You are the whole person. Trying to develop a trusting relationship with you. Someone who asks you about weekend and truly wants to know how you're doing. Someone who's asking about your children because they want to know who you are and want to be the best leader they can be for you. In intrusive leadership, we talk about those very things. I know the word intrusive is a bit off-putting, but it should be. It's supposed to be jarring enough to get you to be inquisitive enough to pick it up and say, why would anybody want to work for an intrusive leader? Well, an intrusive leader is one who's going to take into account more than just what you do for them at the workplace. They're going to take into account everything that makes you who you are, and they're going to tailor their leadership style to what you need in order to thrive, and not only look at your productivity, but to look at what your interests are moving forward.
Thank you so much. So this is our introduction, and this provides an overview of what we're going to discuss. One of the things I want to talk about is that you may not can change your environment, but definitely you can change you. So what are some of the ways we can rebuild trust in an environment where there's fairness, equity, grounded in compassion and empathy for our coworkers?
I would say through genuine conversation. There's nothing like communication to build a trusting relationship. My wife is seated out in the audience there. She'll tell you that we spent more hours in conversation than doing anything else in order to build that relationship. It took consistency. It took effort. It took compromise. It took openness. It took transparency. So why not share those same things with the folks that you work with every day?
Okay, thank you for that. One of the things I want to discuss is just building trust with your team, right? I'm a leader. The team is looking at me in this environment that change is constant. There is a lot of uncertainty around when it's going to happen to us, if it's going to happen to us. Well, I get that. But today, tomorrow, build trust with their team in an environment that is bumpy, where there's turbulence, to assure them that we still got to produce the work, and our work and our performance still have to maintain a level of excellence.
I love that question. The reality is, even if it may sound trite, it is to focus on being kinder. And we don't know necessarily what that means, because nice, not kind, right? Those are not the same thing. So in a turbulent environment, what you need most is to know that you have each other's backs, right? That there is trust. And that works with, I use a kinder framework. So K is for kinship, right? I is for inquisitive and introspective. Because when you don't understand someone, you have to ask questions, and then you have to look inside and see how you feel and deal with that.
Yes, and so when we think about the environment, how all of us are being impacted, some of us may handle the turbulence different from others, right? Some of us may internalize it more than others. So how do we identify when someone is having a mental breakdown? Or how do we do a wellness check without being intrusive? Or some people may say you're being too nosy, but how do we identify someone in our work environment that does need intervention, that does need a wellness check, and how do we do it where it uplifts the whole team?
Well, it's up to your coworkers and those that work with you to share how much they want to share with you is up to them. All we can do is continue to push. I'd rather be asked than not asked. I would rather someone say, hey, Wes, you seem to be a little bit off your game. Is there something I can do to help? Is there something you need to talk about? And if I feel comfortable enough with that person through repetitious conversation and confirmation that you really do care about me, then I will share. Lives have been saved in that manner.
And I like also when you are a leader and you're leading a team, or even your coworker on a team, to practice grace during this time, right? Grace is empathy. Grace is a level of compassion that you have, and it's a way that you talk to that coworker, not at the coworker, and just having a level-mindedness that says, I really want to connect to see how I can provide a level of well-being in an environment that's constantly changing.
I love how you said that, and I would just like to follow up with a leader is not a title. And that's not an exact quote, but Cory Booker said that. Okay. And the reality is, even if you are not the manager, you are the leader when you do those things. When you ask questions, that's where the introspective or inquisitive comes in. When you see somebody who's struggling, you can ask, just like he was saying, you can ask, and if they want to share and they feel comfortable, great. If they don't, it's your job to say, I'm here when you need me, not, but. No, really, I can tell you're upset. Nope, just say, I'm here when you need me, because that's how you build trust.
Another thing that I want to discuss is this unconscious level of anxiety and fear, especially for those who are maybe at a certain age in the workforce, that they may be feeling like, I wonder if they're going to push me out. Is ageism real during this time of transition? Would I be able to bounce back? Would AI take my job in automation? How would you bring a solution of wellness to individuals who may be feeling that? They're not discussing it, but it's in their consciousness.
Affirmation. Affirmation happens to be my love language, so it's easy for me to tell someone how valuable they are to me and to the organization.
And I like how you talked about affirmation, because when you talk about toxicity in a work environment and those feelings of insecurity that comes with that, you definitely have to affirm your identity, right? Of who you are, your worth, what you bring in the workplace. And if it's not accepted here, it's accepting at someplace else, that you are valued. It's not like your value and your worth and your gifting is not an age limit attached to it. It is just, am I aligned in this place? Because where your passion is, that's where you're going to be called to. And sometimes I've experienced when the environment is toxic, to me, it's God's way of saying, do you want to jump? Are you ready to leap? I can make that happen for you. You don't have to be afraid. Do you want to add to that?
Just quickly, yes. First off, AI still needs people. And that's one of the most important things that we can do, is focus on those quote unquote soft skills, on how to be a better leader, on how to share that kindness with each other. And the last two, N is for nimble, because so much is happening right now, especially AI. It's going so fast that one of the things that you need to do is be nimble, be flexible, be ready to take in the information and process it later if you need to, right? And then D is you have to be determined. Okay, you have to want to be better with affirmations, with learning skills. You have to want to be better and do better.
Yes, and one of the things I do want to talk about, environments where there is change, like change could mean just a whole new management team, right? That's coming into your work environment. And what you have taken years to perfect and do, now things are no longer the same. And you can feel a sense of toxicity or being pushed out or even being ignored, or your input is being minimized by this new management team that's there. What are some of the ways an employee or individuals can do to minimize that having an impact on their worth?
That's a tough question, because it will, in fact, did I jump ahead of you? It can be a really difficult transition. But again, you find the leader, you become that leader, and you help each other process through, and you find out, is this peace? Will this give me peace? You find your peace, and then you see how it goes. And HR, the easy answer for us is, well, go work somewhere else, right? But we all know that's not real. It's not easy to just go get another job. So finding that inner peace with the affirmations, loving that, and being willing to stand up and be that leader, find the positive, don't complain, or be supportive to your coworkers, and do start looking for something different where you will feel.
One of the things that I do think about, Lindsay, is community, right? You go to work, you know it's toxic, you come home, and sometimes we pick up behaviors to eliminate stress, like overeating or overindulging, or even having addiction to chocolate. And you know it is having an impact on your body. So there are ways that we can minimize the stress, and one of the ways is building community where people are affirming you and providing solution. I think this is a time where we are working in community and partnership and less than a silo type of endeavors. One of the ways that you can eliminate stress is walking, nature walking, cycling, reading a good book like my journal called Peace, just having a great dinner with girls. They do girls brunch. There's many ways that you can minimize the stress. Do you have any to add to that?
Exercise. Again, I can't speak too much about communication. I come home and unload my day on my wife. God bless you, babe, for listening to all those stories about how people are on the job or are out of their minds. I call coworkers that are in the like trade, and we compare notes. There's a sip and smoke session that we hold via Zoom on the weekends on Friday nights, where me and a bunch of guys, we smoke cigars and we just talk about life stuff, things that we can't talk to anybody else about because men don't cry. Rub some dirt on it and keep it moving. But guess what? Men do cry, and there have been tears on that call. And again, communication, get it out. I've seen a therapist because you just never know. You just never know. Therapy is preventative maintenance. You don't need to go to therapy when you have your breakdown. Just like you don't take your car to the shop just when it breaks down. That's why they have tune-ups and things of that nature. Sit down, get yourself some couch time, share some things, offload that stuff, and get you a good group of people around you that you trust, that you can talk to.
Go ahead.
I just want to echo that, because my tribe is out here with us, and Bold Publishing, Dr. Denise Nicholson, we wrote our books together, and now we're building this all together as community. And again, K is for kinship, finding that thing we all have in common.
And I really like the community part, but let's talk about the mental health part, right? I think there are preventative measures that you can take. Instead of letting things happen to you, if you feel that urgency, it's like, what can you do? Get with a community that will help you to strategize, looking at ways to have another avenue of saying where I am valued, right? Not everyone, like you said, can transition out from I like to call it your bread and butter. But if you have another avenue, you can make yourself feel like, yes, I can do more, I can be more, I can become more, I can even dream bigger, because I'm not just eternalizing this. I understand this is a situation that we all are in, but what are some of the ways that I can see my value outside of my bread and butter environment? So I think that's something about to minimize stress and to ensure that your identity and confidence is still being built in this workplace, and bringing harmony. And like you were saying, just looking around you, once you've been strengthened in that, you also go outside of yourself, because this is a community environment.
I have to just throw in there that Chapter 8 in my book, called, by the way, Don't Be a Dick, HR Advice for a Kinder, Healthier, and More Successful Workplace. That is, Chapter 8 is Kindness Begins in You. You have to start with yourself, building boundaries and all kinds of that. So thank you for bringing that piece up, because Chapter 8, Don't Be a Dick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. My book coach over there having my back.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. One of the things that we would like to do in this space is, does anyone have any questions or even a story or something they would like to share and asking us dealing with workplace harmony? We're opening up the mic, okay?
Please.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
I am Commissioner Carmesia Hawthorne. I'm from Falls Park District in Illinois. I think that what you guys are talking about is very, very important, and it's going on in a lot of different workspaces, as well as I'm a commissioner on the board, and there is no unity. And I've used different strategies with bringing team, because together we all can achieve more. I believe in that. And so I sit on a board of 5 people, and it's been nothing but chaos. We've went away to have like sessions, group-wise, department heads or whatnot. And we've had 3. The first one, nobody said anything except me. Second time, we heard a little bit out, which is good. But then the third one coming up is just, not everybody participates. So when you're trying to do the right thing and there's so much chaos, you get burnt out. 7 sessions burnt out, that type of thing, because of the disunity, the distrust. But God being the source on having to forgive and pull different. We have employees fighting. It's just the numerous things, people leaving. So I think this was definitely divinely for me to get some type of insight on don't give up. Because the first thing is you draw back. I've had enough, that type of thing. But then it's like you can't draw back because you still have a role you have to play. And I think when you say the mental health, that's the part that I would like you guys to just expound on when you're dealing with that type of load and what you can do, because you still have to do your role. You understand that you only have the power to change self, and you keep being you. But what would you suggest the mental space be of that when the chaos begins again?
Yeah. One of the things that I wrote in my book, Survival Revival, is the first step to survive and to revive yourself is to reframe your situation. If you see your situation as they, but you're still there, and you bring the power, you bring the peace, you bring the navigation, and even though it may appear to be more than yourself, you have to reframe your situation. You have to see your situation not as chaos, but as peace, as a learning tool that God is using for you to rise and continue to rise above it. One of the things that I do is visualize and reframe my conversation when I'm speaking, because if I'm constantly complaining, I'm creating that environment too. Not only when I go to work, but I'm attracting that. I have to reframe and speak positive and reclaim power over that situation. It's also called commanding your morning. I learned that from Dr. Cindy Trim, how when she gets up in the morning, she reclaims her morning. She declares what type of day she wants to have. She declares and decree it. Your words are powerful. Your words go before you. And so one of the mental health practices that I use is to reframe and reclaim through declarations and decrees.
I would say that you have to protect your peace.
Yes.
Okay? And protecting your peace is not selfish. You are of the highest value to me when you are at your personal most effective. Okay? So protecting your peace protects me, because I don't know if I want to deal with a 50% you and the other 50% is life doing its thing. Okay? So there is nothing wrong with you protecting your peace. There is nothing wrong with you setting boundaries and setting limits to what you will accept. Okay? You first, and then be the best you for the rest of us.
Someone has a question? Agree with you with crucial and meaningful conversations. But one of the things about reclaiming your power, an executive said to me once, she was like, just go downstairs and tell them to stop it. Like, she was like, reclaim your authority. And so I really do believe that sometimes it's poking, because they want to bring the lioness out of you. They want to bring that courageous lion out of you so they can say, okay, I won't do that anymore. But I would love to continue the conversation, and we only have 2 minutes. So I would like to give these last words, starting with Adrian.
First of all, thank you all for attending. Thank you for this opportunity to sit and talk about intrusive leadership. You can learn more about intrusive leadership at www.kennedyleadershipgroup.com. Pick it up, leaf through it. Our booth is 828 over to my right, your left. Come on over there and see us.
Okay, Ms. Lindsay.
Hi. Sorry, I was looking to see what my booth number was. So again, thank you so much for being here. I wrote a book. It is from HR advice, but I'm funny, so it's also a comedic memoir, a little bit of history, and an opportunity to learn a lot about how to be kinder, or not, at least not be a dick, right? So I'll be signing over there, and I also offer leadership classes and workshops in organizations and fractional HR for those small businesses that don't need full-time HR.
Thank you. And also, I would like to end with publications that would be very helpful. This is the mental health and crucial conversation is a journal called Peace. And then the Survival Revival is about taking you to get to a place, personal strategy to navigate the transitions and change that is happening. My booth is right there with the guy in the blue is sitting in my chair, but I guess he's going to be selling my books for me. But that's where I am, and just come and see me afterwards. I look forward to talking and engaging you more personally. Thank you so much, and we will have the final photos.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
behind us? That's right. Okay. Perfect. Okay. They don't see it. Behind the chair, they don't see it. Behind the chair, they won't see it. Next to you. What side you want? What side profile you want? Robbie, you know what to do, man. You think you should come a little closer? No? You should come closer, maybe. You turn your chair in? Yeah, I want to, you know. She said it's going to be on YouTube. She said it's... Okay, good. Okay. Oh, here? She's... Oh, you want me to turn? Robbie. Want me to turn to you? Watch out. Well, we're late. All right, they tell me late. Right. Oh my. Yeah, right. The house of nigga, come on now. I know. I love it though. I mean, I am new, but we ain't talking about that. Okay. I saw that. Yeah, no, it's not. Believe me, I researched. I wanted to find out myself. This guy was the founder of the Congressional Black Caucus. Yeah. He was the first chairman, and it was his idea to start this. That's right. And we get to sit in this history. That's right. He was from Detroit. I wrote the first book on him. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is going to get interesting. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. All right. I appreciate you. Starting now? Oh, let's go. Ready to go.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Ravi Perry, a professor of political science, former chair at Howard University, and it is my pleasure to introduce the author of a new biography of Congressman Charles C. Diggs, Jr., who is the architect of the Congressional Black Caucus. Marion Orr, to my right, is a dynamic person, writer, human being, friend, mentor, reason why I have a PhD. But more than that, he spent the last 10 years diving through archives and going through college campus libraries and meeting all kinds of legends associated with black politics and Congress to study this man from Detroit, Charles Diggs Jr., who is the reason why we have everything from this convention center named after Walter Washington, the first Johnson-appointed mayor of D.C. after Home Rule. But I want to allow Marion Orr to introduce himself briefly and why he decided to write this remarkable biography. I have read it cover to cover, word for word, and I assure you that you need to know who Charles Diggs is, and Marion Orr is about to tell you.
Thank you, Robbie. Hello, everybody. I wrote the first biography of Charles Diggs Jr. Diggs was the founder of the Congressional Black Caucus. He was founded
in 1971. Diggs, I argue, was the most consequential black person ever to serve in the United States Congress. The number of things that he accomplished while he was in Congress was just remarkable. For example, home rule in Washington, D.C. was a bill that was passed by Congressman Diggs. The anti-apartheid movement in this country started in the office of Charles Diggs Jr. He was a remarkable American, and we need to know more about him, and that's why I wrote this book.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I had a real kind of fan moment and reading this book, one being from the kind of Metro Detroit area, being from what we call South Detroit in Toledo, Ohio, about 45 minutes away. And so very familiar with the Detroit area, but I have to say, did not know much, if anything, about Charles Diggs. Unlike what you tell in the book, I did not learn about Charles Diggs in high school. I did not learn about Charles Diggs until I also met Haynes Walton Jr. When I was in college in my introduction to black politics class. But other than that, we've never seen a biography of Charles Diggs. Why do you think that is?
Well, that's a really good question, Robbie. There is a tendency for historians and journalists to focus largely on a few black leaders. We hear a lot about Dr. King. We hear a lot about Malcolm X. So there's this real necessary corrective history that we need. And I think this book brings just that, a corrective history recognizing a man who should not be forgotten. This guy, for example, went down to Mississippi when the two white men were on trial for killing Emmett Till. He risked his life going down to Mississippi in 1955 to observe that trial. In addition, Charles Diggs was a key person in desegregating commercial air travel. His legacy is just so significant, and I'm not certain why people didn't realize it, but he left his papers. He left all his papers at Howard University, and I was able to access those papers and to write this biography.
So in the book, you will learn everything about the work of Charles Diggs, from helping to integrate the commercial aviation industry to helping to start the first Black American lobby organization for the continent of Africa, to his hometown roots in Detroit as a funeral director, and his deep family ties in politics even before him, where his father was a state senator, one of the first in the state of Michigan to serve in that capacity. But one thing you'll also note that you mentioned throughout is that in today's politics, we think of left and right, we think of red and blue, blue states, red states, conservative and liberal, this horrible bifurcation of one thing or the other. But throughout the book, you label the not only how Diggs conceived of himself and his politics ideologically as a politics of strategic moderation, but really how he saw the institution and the ability for blacks to win goals in a majority rule system. How can you tell us more about what it meant for you to learn that Diggs was not a moderate in the sense that we think of today as in the middle between red and blue, but used pragmatism as his political tool to make things happen for black folks?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned this, Robbie. I used the term politics of strategic moderation to describe Diggs' efforts to build a broad coalition. He believed firmly in the 1950s, 60s, and 1970s that black Americans need to be incorporated into the Democratic Party, number one, because it was the majority party in Congress, and secondly, he believed in, if you will, the big tent. So, for example, he worked with radical militant blacks. He also worked with conservative, more moderate African Americans in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. There were some blacks who were arguing in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that we should have a black party, for example. Diggs understood that the institution of Congress functioned on party politics, so that being part of the Democratic Party allowed him to work to change public policy in Congress.
Would you say, and this is a nerdy political science question, I have one follow-up to this. Would you say that he would agree with Carol Swain that what matters most in achieving action and policy goals for black folks in Congress is their party membership? Would you think that he would say that, or would you think that he was just a function of the times and he understood that that was what was best to achieve the goals during the 26 years he was in office?
Yeah, again, being a strategic legislator, he understood that the key vehicle for changing public policy in Congress was through the Democratic Party. Hence, he moved up through the party through seniority to become chair of the subcommittee on Africa. Had he been in another party, he would not have been chair of the subcommittee on Africa. So he saw the Democratic Party and he used the party as a vehicle to get things accomplished. Again, we're talking the 50s, 60s, and the 1970s.
When y'all go buy the book, and you need to buy this book, if you care about black folks at all, you should buy this book. And if you want to learn more about how not only the CBC started, but all the things about black progress here in Washington, D.C., you need to buy this book, because one of the things you talk about is that he started out as a state senator, following in his father's footsteps, but at the time, Michigan was a Republican-led legislature, and he was frustrated with not being able to get as much done for people back at home, and that was one of the reasons why he saw running for city council and then ultimately for Congress, because he wanted to be useful and actually, bring the bacon back home, and serving in a majority rule system with the party in the majority, he was strategic and shrewd enough to know that that was the way to get politics done, which was important because this is a time when not all black folks, not necessarily a majority of black folks, identified as Democrats yet. We were still before the 1960s when he was elected in 55, where many of them were Republicans.
This is true. See, Diggs learned the value of the Democratic Party and coalition building from his father, who in the 1930s and 1940s worked to build a coalition with black Americans, labor unions, and liberal whites in Michigan. And Diggs watched his father build these coalitions, work with others, white Democrats, for example, to gain and share power. And he understood this from a young person watching his dad build these coalitions in Detroit in the 30s and 1940s.
I'm a Midwesterner, and so I like to brag that if you're from the Midwest, anybody from the Midwest out here, that the constitution of race in our cities requires us in many ways to work with white folks in order to get stuff done for black people. Whereas in coastal cities in the United States, it's not so much that black and white bifurcation. And what you talk about regularly is how, first in his state Senate district, he was elected in a majority white Senate district. His congressional district was a majority white congressional district. That when he got into Congress, he became the third black person, fifth overall ever, third serving after Dawson from Chicago, and of course Powell in New York. But that he was the only one and the first one elected from a majority white district, and people all over the country viewed that as this shows that black folks can not only win, but can represent white folks. And he said repeatedly in the book you quote that he wanted to be a congressman for everybody in his district. How significant was that?
Well, it was very important during this period in 1955 54 when he won and 55 when he goes to Congress. Winning in a majority a black man winning in a majority white district sent a strong signal around the world. We were in the midst of a Cold War. And so Diggs argued, and others argued, that his election was really a big boost for democracy, okay? Because it showed that white Americans were willing to cross the racial barrier to vote for this black congressman. So he viewed his election in 1954 as democracy working. Now let me add that his district would quickly turn majority black, but he was in fact the first black person elected in a majority white congressional district.
Yeah, white flight was some of the worst in Detroit, where you had the sociologists have found that you had the blackest city, 90% black in the 70s and 80s, surrounded by the whitest city, Livonia, all because of the efforts of white flight. But we're here in D.C., and so can we talk about the powerful role that Diggs played that eventually led to him becoming the chair of the D.C. committee, where he wrote the legislation for what we call home rule. He also understood clearly, you talk about that it was insufficient, that statehood was ultimately the goal. Like my pen suggests, that we want to be the 51st state. I don't know what Trump is saying about Canada, but you know, that we want to be the 51st state. Can you talk about, though, how as a Detroiter, he became a serious champion for the right and representation of 700,000 black folks here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, this is very important. This is the part of Diggs' history that I knew a bit about as I was digging into it. I knew he had played this important role. Many people do not realize that prior to 1973, the President of the United States appointed the mayor of Washington, D.C. For 100 years, the Congress and the President ruled the district. In 1973, Diggs became the chair of the D.C. committee in the House, and he pushed through Congress the first home rule bill, restoring home rule after 100 years. Diggs loved the district. He moved here in 1955, and he stayed here until 1980. And you would see him about the city. And he really loved the district, and he fought strongly for home rule, recognizing that home rule was insufficient. You got to recognize that Richard Nixon was the president at the time. And so you're not going to get a statehood bill signed through by Richard Nixon in 1973. So Diggs understood that home rule was still sort of colonialism in a way, but nevertheless, Marion Barry, Muriel Bowser, and other elected officials can tie their election to this man here, Charles Diggs Jr.
He didn't only...
Let me add, Diggs was also the father of the University of District of Columbia. He pushed the legislation through that built UDC,
which is our only public university here in the District of Columbia. He didn't only love Detroit, he loved Africa. He was able to introduce black Americans to Africa, some of whom call it a country, as you talk about, versus a continent. And he thought it was very important to educate black Americans about not only what's happening in Africa, but to educate his colleagues in Congress on the realities of opportunities to collaborate with Africa on business, but also to significantly stand up against the apartheid regime in South Africa. Can you talk about how he was able to make sure that the United States government finally started paying attention to the largest continent?
Diggs was the first American legislator, congressman, to take a serious and long-term interest in African public policy. He was the first American legislator to pay attention to Africa. In 1959, Diggs became the first black person to serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And in 1969, he became chair of the Subcommittee on Africa. And it was through his chairmanship of the subcommittee that he brought to America's attention apartheid that was occurring in South Africa. And he fought hard for our country to change our relationship with that racist regime in South Africa. Trans Africa, the organization that played a big role in fighting and bringing down apartheid, Trans Africa was Charles Diggs' vision, and he made it happen.
I've got one final question, and that is that most of y'all came here on flights. So next, when you come out, when you go back home on your flight, thank Charles Diggs for integrating the commercial aviation industry. And if you have time to go stop by the Air and Space Museum, you will see a permanent exhibit honoring Charles Diggs' work. The reason why we can sit next together, the reason why you can go to National Reagan Airport, DCA, and sit with white and black folks at the restaurant is because of Charles Diggs. So he loved Detroit, he loved DC, he loved Africa. He also loved his family, even though his family brought him a lot of challenges. Final question, can you talk about how his character, his upbringing, his family coming from a funeral business where you work with folks in grief and in times of struggle, how all of that upbringing helps him to be a responsive politician over his 26 years here in Congress?
Yeah, the House of Diggs title was taken from the name of the funeral home that his parents owned. The Diggs Funeral Home, the House of Diggs, was the largest mortuary owned by blacks in the country in the 50s and 1960s. And it was a business that worked with the poorest people and the most elite people. And so Diggs had a chance to watch his father and his parents work within the diversity of the black community. To make a long story short, the House of Diggs tells the story of a remarkable American, the most consequential black man ever to serve in the United States Congress. You can buy the book on Amazon. You can check me out at marionorr.com.
And join me in thanking Marion, the most consequential biographer of the most consequential black man to ever serve in Congress, the creator of the CBC. And to thank you, Marion, I have a 51st pin for you to welcome your support for statehood here in Washington, D.C.
Right.
I don't care what Trump says. We're going to be next.
Statehood. There you hear it. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
I got plenty of pictures and video.
On the stage, man. It's bothering me. I don't want somebody to. You see it? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good.
1, 2.
See how that worked out for you? I didn't do it. You did it. You knew what he was doing. He was supposed to sit there. I see you giggling all the way down. Thank you. I told him this might turn into a first shall be last. That's what the Bible said. Good luck.
Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Adia Jordan. I want to just make sure that we had a good introduction. If you can hear the sound of my voice, we're going to ask that you come into the theater-style seating, even if you have a booth for this session. I'm actually going to turn this over to Sean Long. This session, Hustlers MBA, Ownership, Social Responsibility, and Innovation. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Sean.
All right, so I am going to allow each and one of you all to introduce yourself, but I'm going to start. I am Sean Long. I am an author of not only the Hustlers MBA, but also co-author of Project 2030, and we will have a deep conversation about both as of right now. Over to you, Russell.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Russell Cox. I am a husband, a father, and I currently work for Ernst & Young as a consultant.
Yo, Steve Jones, Hollywood Confidential, owner of Hollywood Confidential event series and new author of Hollywood Confidential, the book. And I'm going to hold it like this in hopes that you buy it. Nice to meet everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Quentin Lacewell, Vice President of Government Relations at Wells Fargo.
All right, so we're here today to talk about the Hustlers MBA and what does that mean. So I'm gonna just give you guys a brief background on the book itself. It is basically, it was written to empower African Americans to build better black businesses. I was literally studying for my MBA and I was listening to some Jay-Z and I was like, man, this dude got a Hustlers MBA. And I kept writing my paper, and then I was like, you know what, this needs to be a book. And so when you look at this book, when you read this book, it's really about empowerment for African Americans across the board. I'm gonna toss the question to Russell. When you think about hustler, what does that term mean to you?
Well, a little bit of background. I am
I think in a
to use creative ways, thinkings, mechanisms, and resources to one, gain an advantage and to ultimately accomplish their goal. So to answer your question directly, that's what a hustler means to me.
All right, Steve and Quentin, I'm gonna throw it to you as well. What does hustler mean to you guys?
I'll sum it up and say, I think my alma mater, Clark Atlanta University, spelled it out pretty well what hustle means. I'll find a way or I'll make one.
All right. So to define hustler in this context, a hustler is basically an entrepreneur, but they lack one of three things: lack of access to knowledge, lack of access to capital, or lack of access to network, and they just try to figure it out as they go along. And so what we tried to do with this book is to create the access to knowledge so that you can build your access to capital. Now I'm gonna go over to Quentin since he's in the banking industry. As somebody who's looking, as an African American that's looking to start their own business, right? What are some of the key components do you believe needs to be put into place so that they can be a true hustler in their in their establishment?
Well, I'll definitely say a hustler always needs resources. You moving anything, you need product first. So in order to have product, whether that's liquid or whatever it is, you need somebody to help you establish that product in order to move it. So I say, one, go talk to a banker. And if you're in need of a banker, I know a great financial institution by the name of Wells Fargo that can help you with that, and a financial advisor, because you need some steps to put things in place on that path. I also say you need help. No person can do it on their own. I'm not an expert in all things. Actually, I'm a government relations person, just happen to work in the financial services industry. So get you some people with resources, whether you're looking to open up a brick and mortar shop, is access to capital in your local municipalities, see what seed money there is for small businesses, startup. Again, go talk to a bank. You'd be surprised how many resources are there to help invest in small businesses in our communities.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you said right there was very important, that you need a team. Because yes, you may have an idea to start your own business, but the reality of it is that you got to be the chief sales officer to sell that vision to your team first, so that they can believe in you and they can move forward with you.
Can I interject?
Absolutely.
So Quentin said that step one is you need product for whatever endeavor it is, and I would challenge that with the word that you just said, and that was vision. I think before something comes into fruition, you have to think of it first. You have to imagine it first. You have to see the end before you even start the beginning. Like, that is the beginning. You seeing in yourself, in your mind, what could be possible, and then you start to do the things to make that thing possible. And obviously, product is paramount. But the market is saturated with products. What differentiates your product from my product? I would argue, and I've seen this and lived this in my own lived experiences, that me being a product, what separates me from others is my vision, my belief, and how I present myself. So how you present that product is everything, and that presentation it starts with you seeing in your mind and building and presenting that in a way that people want to buy. Amazing product is nothing if you don't have a consumer.
Absolutely. Steve, when you were conceiving your book, what was your vision for your book?
Cool, I'm gonna answer that, but I'm gonna tag on. That was good, my brother. This is like our pre-panel call. We were lovingly interrupting each other on the pre-panel for an hour and a half as brothers. I think when you talk about what differentiates your product, being you might have the same product as me, but my authenticity is what helps me to stand apart. I don't believe in competition. If we both selling water on the block, my authenticity, is going to cause you to come to me. Me authentically showing up as myself. Me leaning into that. That's a superpower. So I love that, brother. I love that point that you just made. When it came to my book, my intention was to create a blueprint for success, from interviewing some of the biggest stars in entertainment like Angela Bassett, Lupita Nyong'o, Jennifer Lopez, producing with Beyonce, selling 3 or 4 shows to Oprah Winfrey. I'm having access and conversations with legends in the game, and I'm accruing knowledge that everyone doesn't have access to. So I wanted to put all that information that I've accrued in my 20+ year career into a book, so that when people slide into my DMs or see me speaking, I have something tangible, a product that I can offer them to live their dreams. I'm not gatekeeping the information. I want you to win. There's room for all of us in the circle. There's room for all of us to eat. So this book is a love letter to dreamers, to creators, that says, hey, I did it. These 12 of the biggest stars I work with did it, and you can do it too. Here's the secret. This book is available on Amazon, Walmart, Target. Wait, don't cancel me, they're canceled. It's available everywhere books are sold. Thank you.
All right, Quentin, I got one for you. When we talk about vision, you shared a story with us about your father, and he had a vision for you to help you get to where you are today. Do you mind sharing that vision with us today?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I think it's not happenstance we all end up where we are today. One of the things I say often is, even as a preacher of the gospel, God often gives us a glimpse of our future, even when we don't understand it. And so my father did a lot of things to put me in place for where I am operating in the spaces today. So the first thing he did when I was 12 years old, our council member at the time was a man by the name of Cory Booker, who just happened to be running for mayor of my hometown, the city of Newark, New Jersey. It was there, I literally had a seat at the table as a child to understand how things happen. I was privy to conversations. Politics is a funny place, make strange bedfellows. And so I got all of this knowledge, and he set me on a trajectory to be the youngest one in the room, but soak up everything that's happening behind the scenes. Because when we come on these stages, that's not where the decisions are being made. It's happening behind closed doors. So he taught me how to be in the room and be present and utilize that as my greatest asset.
And where did that vision take you from your father's perspective? What did he see in you that he didn't necessarily have in himself at that particular time?
So he seen me being the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, which I didn't necessarily want to do. But today I happen to be the youngest co-chair of the U.S. Conference of Mayors Business Council, working with all our mayors across the United States, small, little, every major city. And so what he happened from the business perspective, because my father was a hustler, he had a small t-shirt business, actually worked for Continental Airlines. We would fly to Thailand on weekends. He would flip suits to politicians in Newark, tailor-made suits, sell it to them on a campaign trail. So he gave me the leverage how to talk business in the room with government leaders, and that's the vision that manifested in what I currently operate in.
And that's absolutely dope. We honor him, that's for sure, without question. And so one of the things that I wanted to do when I wrote this book was change the mindset about what a hustler is, because oftentimes it's something that's negative. But we all grew up in communities where, man, we know hustlers of all different types. And the reality is, and we talked about this earlier, was that it's the lack of access to something that has put them into that situation where they can't grow and succeed. Russell, let's talk about some of your foundational values and vision that you have that has shaped you to get you where you are right now.
All right, I'll give you the most abridged walk I can through this journey. I grew up in Harlem, New York, in the Dunbar Apartments, housing projects right across from Harlem River Houses on 150th Street. You can imagine, in the 80s, so you can imagine what my normal day-to-day at-home life was like. Had two parents until I was about 8. Still have both my parents, but had that stereotypical 80s urban brown young man upbringing, except that I went to school down on Park Avenue in 94th Street. I went to a predominantly white and Asian private school my entire life. So I had exposure to a better life. I had exposure to different places, different people, different cultures. And I carry that with me every day. I live this dichotomy each and every day. Fast forward, I unfortunately spent some time in my formative years without both my parents. So having to figure things out, growing up in New York from 13 to 18, and then going to the University of Buffalo, where, again, I went to school because I was smart, not because I had any particular focus or aspiration. When you're a smart kid, what do? You go to school. So I did that, but all along, I wanted to be a firefighter, right? So I got the piece of paper for mom and dad to hang up on the wall, and then I pursued my dream, which was to be a firefighter. I did that for about 5 years down in the city of Richmond, in Richmond, Virginia, and then up in Northern Virginia in Prince William County. The one dream that I had more than being a firefighter, though, wasn't related to a profession. I wanted to be the very best husband and father anyone had ever seen, right? And I imagine that has a lot to do with my upbringing. I wanted to be present. I wanted to have disposable income. I wanted to be able to take and do and experience things with my children that my parents worked hard to afford me, but weren't able to do with me. So very abruptly, I resigned from the fire department and decided in order to create this life, I need to make more money. And in order to make more money, my very, left brain, logical man brain said, in order to make more money, you got to learn how money works. Where do you go to learn? You go to school. So I resigned from the fire department within about 3 weeks' time and pursued business school. I got into American University. And at American University, I was part of a lot of case competitions where some folks from KPMG saw and appreciated the way I thought through things and the way I was able to articulate ideas, concepts, boil down complexity and present it simplistically. They took a liking to me and gave me an opportunity. And then from there, I moved on to a couple of smaller firms, and then now I am in the government public sector practice doing risk consulting with Ernst & Young.
And Steve, I got to come to you, man. We got to talk a little bit more about your foundational area in your life. You shared a story with us about your dad and what he meant to you. You mind sharing it with everybody right now?
Yeah, can't acknowledge my dad without shout out my mom who traveled with me on this trip. What's up, Mom?
Hey, Mom.
I was sharing with the fellas that I'm just in a new space. Unexpectedly, back in August of 2024, lost my dad. He had just got a clean bill of health in January last year, and my sister just had a baby, which was actually inspired by, he had a small procedure, in and out same day, but it kind of pushed my sister into, I'm gonna give dad a grandbaby. After she decided she wasn't gonna have kids. And the timing of God, she had the baby, and my dad had 2 months as a proud grandfather with the baby until his unexpected passing. And so now I told the guys, I've just been struggling with what does legacy look like? What does the weight of legacy that I'm now feeling? Feels like a little bit of a burden to stand in that gap where my dad, I think I was just taking it for granted what he was doing. I was telling somebody when I got back to Los Angeles, for the first time I felt uncovered in my life, and I didn't even know that he was serving as a cover for me until he was no longer in that role on the world stage. When he exited stage left is when I realized what a true father is. A true father is a provider. A true father is a protector. I realized even at my big age, he was my backup plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, if anything was to go wrong, I knew I could always go home. So now to be standing here in one of the biggest seasons of my life, putting out my book, and him not be here to champion me on the world stage, it's a very interesting space that I found myself in. So again, I